And welcome back to Sports the NEMO Way, the Scottie Pippen episode. The 6'8", 210-pound small forward is a 6-time champ, 0-time MVP. He's a 7-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, playing 17 years in the league after being the number 5 overall pick, and he is a Hall of Famer. With career averages of 16, 6, and 5 on 47% shooting. Now, we will first off lead this off with, you just have to feel really sorry for a guy like Scottie Pippen, who was a better basketball player than Michael Jordan, but the media projected all these things on Michael and made Michael look better than him, and it was all Michael's fault and the media's fault for portraying it that way and not letting Scottie have his due. He was clearly the best player on those teams. Just ask him; he'll tell you.
It really showed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. The years Michael left, he clearly won 2 championships without him. No, in all seriousness, I just had to poke a little fun at Scottie being clearly a crazy person in the media right now, trying to sell his book. But
he's senile.
No, you want to know my honest opinion? I wasn't planning on doing this early in the episode, but my honest opinion is his wife left him, and then his son died, and I think he's just in a very, very bad place. That's just my personal opinion. I obviously don't know Scottie Pippen. I have no idea what's going on. But those two things happened very close together, and then he started saying all this craziness in the media. And he was a regular contributor to The Jump, the NBA show on ESPN. And he was a stark defender of Michael being the greatest player of all time. He, not that long ago, said, when they asked him the question, is LeBron better than Mike? His response was, LeBron's not even better than me. So how is he better than Mike? And now he's saying LeBron's the greatest of all time, and he is better, as in Scottie is better than Mike. So Scottie's clearly lost his mind. But I'm hoping that, this is all craziness to try and sell a book, and he doesn't actually believe these things, and he'll calm down again afterwards, but I don't know. Anyway, we can talk more about the craziness that is Scottie Pippen in a second, but we are actually going to kick to me first because I have Scottie ranked the lowest. Obviously, he's on my list because the players thus far are on all of our lists, but I have Scottie ranked the lowest. He is number 48 on my list, 2 away from the very end, and number 10 on my small forwards list. So I will give my opening statement on Scottie Pippen. I don't have a ton here. Obviously, I think Scottie Pippen's a great player because he's on my list. I do, and I don't mean to hurt Scottie's feelings because that seems easy to do right now, but I think Scottie Pippen is overrated because he played with Michael Jordan. I think he owes a lot of his success to playing with Michael Jordan, who I consider the greatest player of all time. I think all of us in this room consider him the greatest player of all time, or close to. Better than Scottie, anyway, unlike Scottie's opinion. Because that's true. One of us doesn't have MJ1 on our list. I forgot about that. I don't think statistically he stacks up against most of the guys on our lists. So his inclusion on my list is really based on championships, which he is not the best player on any championship team. He is the second best player on 6 championship teams, which is not a bad thing, but it's not the same as being the best player on a championship team. No finals MVPs. Where Scottie really separates himself on the basketball floor was defensively. He is a all-time great defender. He's definitely in that conversation for greatest perimeter defender of all time. And he is a 10-time all-defense. So nothing to shake a stick at there. But outside of his championships, his awards and accolades are solid, but they're not great or spectacular. 7 All-Star teams, fine. Not a huge number, but I don't hold a lot of stock in All-Star game. 7 All-NBA, again, solid, good, not crazy big, and the 10 All-Defensive teams is what sticks out. Not really having any awards, not a Rookie of the Year, not an MVP, not a Most Improved, anything like that. Nothing else on the resume as far as that. So I think that's where I struggle with him. That's why I give more credit to his career as MJ, because the championships is really what gets him there. So that's my opening statement, and that will lead us to Drew.
Oh, yeah.
Who has him ranked the next lowest at 41 overall and 8th on his small forward list.
Well, I don't have much to best about Scottie. I think the most impressive thing that I like that he has is all defensive teams, like Alex pointed out, and obviously the 6 titles. But so if he was such a great player and wonderful player, why does he not have the MVP? I'm not even saying it has to be the years when Michael was there. I'm saying the 2 years where he was totally, the Bulls didn't change at all when Michael left. He took it over and all this stuff, and Hoover and Holland, and I'm like, no, nothing. We don't want to go in the game when we're down and all this other bull crap going on. No, we don't want to do it. We're just going to go sit down and let Tony Kukoc train the 3. So, yeah. Well, yeah, that's all I got on Scottie right now before I get really going.
Fair enough. And that will lead us to Uncle Doug, who has him a little bit of a jump up from Drew and I at 33 overall, and also 8th, like Drew, on his small forward list.
Yeah, all defense is one of Scottie's strongest points. You look at his numbers. His peaked out at 22 points. His total points is 66th. His average is 227th. Rebounds 99 and not top 250, which rebounds for a small forward aren't that big a deal. Assists came in at 33, which happens to be where I ranked him, and 106 for his average. Steals, he is 7th all-time in steals, with his average being 18th. Scottie was a very good defender. He's the only small forward on my list that didn't average at least 20 points a game. I look at small forwards for scoring. I moved him up, though, because of the championships. And we'll go with that for the time being. I have a couple other things to mention, but we'll let Ray get his start here.
Yeah.
Well, before I kick it to Ray, I will say Wade should be in this gap between Doug and Ray. Obviously, Wade is not with us again tonight, but Wade's ranking of Scottie Pippen was a nice jump up from Uncle Doug. 18 overall and number 4 on his small forward list is Scottie Pippen. I didn't realize. Sometimes I feel like I don't know Wade, man. I didn't realize Wade had this much love for Scottie. But I don't have any information to provide otherwise, which leads us to Ray, who has Scottie Pippen number 9 overall and number 2 on his small forward list. So a giant leap up from the rest of us. So Ray, what you got about Scottie?
Wade, I wish you were here. All right, so I compared the small forwards list. I found out that among the 16 that we have chosen, that only 5 are across the board in all 4 major stat categories, between 3 and 100, between assists, steals, points, and rebounds. There are 3.
Hold on. Can you repeat that again? I didn't quite catch all that.
There's among the 16 that we have chosen on the small forwards list.
Yeah.
There's only 5 that have stats on the records list among the assists, steals, points, and rebounds. Only 5
have all 4.
Okay, gotcha. I understand.
Okay.
I didn't understand it first.
Okay.
I apologize.
And then there's 3 on our small forwards list that aren't even on the list at all. Paul Arizin, James Worthy, one of my guys, and then Kawhi Leonard. Let's see. Even the man we hold at such high regard, Bird, Pippen beats him out at assists and steals. Not saying Pippen is better than Bird, but I'm just throwing that out there. There are also players that we have on the list who are also on a one-dimensional player like Dantley and Wilkins, who just score. I say all this because small forwards list is literally all over the place from a stats standpoint. And that is all comes down to the era that they played in and the competition that they played against. You have the 80s where Bird was dominant as small forward. You have the 70s where Julius Erving was the man. And then we hit the 90s where Pippen was the man, followed by Wilkins, which was a one-trick pony at scoring. Then we have the new era where as much as I would like to say James is better small forward, I just can't. The biggest reason is I just don't like him. He's a crybaby on every call. He brings all the competition to his team. Let's see. Well, that's all I'll say about that for right now. That episode will come. The point of the story is that the competition you go against matters. And yes, Pippen and Jordan were on the same team. But as we know, Jordan didn't win without Pippen, and Pippen didn't win without Jordan. So we can debate that Jordan is the GOAT at a later date, but he didn't get anywhere without Pippen. Then you have to compare the competition of the 90s, which the 90s was a top tier. James is in the weakest era where he should have just dominated, but somehow he couldn't do anything close to what Pippen and Jordan's team did. The only thing James had is a padded stat line, just like Westbrook. Last note to my opening statement. Compared to the rest of the list, there are a lot of one-sided players on the list at small forward and the rest position, but I think Scottie Pippen is one of the most balanced players on this list, and that's why I have Scottie so far up my list. So, yeah.
Fair enough, Ray. Now, can we touch on some of these early things you had to say about the lists?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said that we have 16 total small forwards, correct?
Right.
And you said 5 of them appear on
The stat sheet.
the 4 lists.
Yep.
So you said points, rebounds, assists, and steals, correct?
Right. You want me to name them off?
Yeah. Who are the 5?
Okay, so I have Pippen, James, Julius Erving, Pierce, and then we have Bird.
Okay. Can I ask why you picked those 4? Just curiosity. Those four stats. I mean,
those are ones that everybody had.
Got you.
I was gonna put blocked, but I mean, that's really like either a hit or miss kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, small forwards, block shots, not really as important. I agree with you there. And then you said there was only 3 of them that did what?
That didn't hit the stat sheet at all, and those are
like they didn't make a single list.
No, Paul Arizin was not in any top 100 at all. I didn't find Worthy at any top 100, unless I'm missing something totally altogether. And then Leonard, I think we discussed Leonard on that first episode where he was not even
he's
250.
He's not 250 on any list because he hasn't played very much.
So those were the 3.
Well, Drew, you're our Paul Arizin guy, so you need to come up with something there.
Yeah.
And then you said something about Bird.
That we have Bird at such high regard. So, I mean, I know Pippen's not better than Bird, but Pippen kind of beats him out at a couple stats. But, I mean, Bird was a whole different kind of player in the 80s. And, I mean, the comparison among the two are like miles apart. So, I'm not even going to try and compare the two because I have Bird ahead of Pippen. So,
I've got, when I went through my small forward rankings, I did 18 of them. As far as we won't look at blocks, but as far as steals, Scottie is tied with Rick Barry and Dr. J. They are the top steals guys on the list.
Are we talking career totals or per
Average.
game? Oh, average.
Oh,
Looking
average.
at
Okay.
averages. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Looking at averages. Assist wise, Scottie was 5'2". Bird had 6'3". LeBron's got 7'2". Rick Barry comes in at 5'1". So Scottie is pretty high out of the 18 guys on assist. This is where it starts dropping off, though. Rebounds, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 guys out of the 18 out-rebounded Scottie.
Yeah.
And of my 18 guys, 17 of them outscored him.
Yeah.
Can I ask who the other guy is?
Oh, I mean, Scottie's 18.
Oh, Scotty's 8. Okay, I got you.
Scottie's 18.
Got you. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's last. He's last.
He was the lowest point average of the guys that I considered.
Well, my boy Paul over here, he was averaging 22.8 a game, and 8.6.
So where do we know where Paul Arizin is on the all-time scoring list?
Yeah, he's 115th.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
so he is outside the
Yeah.
100.
Right, he
Yeah.
is outside the 100.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all it-
He's the one that left early to go work for IBM.
And
right?
he didn't play 2 years in the middle of his career because he went and served in the military.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
he only
yeah,
played
so
700
He
games.
only
Yeah,
played 700
gotcha.
games. So.
Well, that is one thing Scotty does have going for him is he played a while.
Yeah.
He has
yeah.
almost 1,200 games. He played 17 seasons. So he does have that going for him. He does have the longevity. Still not as long as LeBron, but
no,
Yeah.
he's the king of that.
and he has more win shares than Allen Iverson has played with.
Oh, Lord.
We're thinking about you, Wade.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
the one thing I do agree with you about here, Ray, or maybe not the one thing, but one of the things I do agree with you about is Scotty did a little bit of everything. He played
He did.
defense.
Yeah, he did.
He scored a little. He rebounded a little. He assisted a little. He got steals. He took the ball to the basket. He shot from the outside. He did a little bit of everything. I think at least offensively, that was his thing. He was a jack of all trades, master of none. I guess that old saying.
Yeah.
He could score, but he wasn't a great scorer. He could shoot a little, but he wasn't a good shooter. He had some assists, but he wasn't like a big assist guy. And he rebounded all right, but it wasn't like he was an elite rebounder. The only thing I would say he's elite at is defense. Which is an important part of the game. I'm not knocking him for his defense. I'll be honest with you though. The news around Scotty lately, in like the last month of what he's been doing, it's really soured me on Scotty. It makes me really like kind of dislike him. So I'm trying not to bring that into this conversation as far as like my feelings on what Scotty's doing right now, because he just it's really hard to like the guy right now.
I was reading an interesting article today talking about his book.
Yeah.
And a couple comments. Of course, Charles Barkley, he's never shy. He just came right out and said he's just trying to sell books. He's crazy, The guy that co-wrote the book with Scotty said that you could see where the book changed. He said the book changed with The Last Dance.
Mm-hmm.
He said up till then, it was a great story. It was talking about him overcoming, being one of so
Poverty,
many children
yeah.
and poverty, and he grew the 6 inches in like college, and just it was a phenomenal story. And he said after The Last Dance, it became I've got to refute everything that they said in The Last Dance.
But that's my thing, and I don't want to make this a Scottie Pippen Last Dance thing, but it's going to come up, so we might as well talk about it for a minute.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's so mad. I don't think The Last Dance painted him too badly, and it didn't tell us anything we didn't already know. Drew may not have known because he
No.
wasn't alive.
Yeah.
But all of
The rest of us all knew.
the rest of us all knew he refused to go back into a game.
You probably watched it live
We did.
Yeah.
with the rest of
We're all like,
America.
what the heck?
Exactly. We all knew that happened. It was on the lead story for ESPN for days after that. We knew he refused to go back into a game. We knew he was pissed off about being underpaid because he complained about it all the time in the media.
Right.
We knew that.
Well, they showed clips on The Last Dance of ESPN and the reporters talking about it.
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
they're making this up. They already showed the ESPN reports.
Well, and they talked about he goes off on Michael in the flu game,
Yeah.
which was an amazing game. I watched that game,
Mhm.
and it was. I mean, the poor guy was sick. But Scottie had a game where his back was hurt, and Scottie, I mean, he didn't score that many points or anything, but he tried.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in, he would go back to the locker room, he'd get treatment, he'd come back out on the floor.
oh, yeah, he was in and out of that
try.
locker
And
room all night.
The Last Dance portrayed him pretty heroically through that.
I thought so too. And here's the big thing. What he's trying to say that he should be remembered for the back game more than Scottie for the flu game because the hurt back is worse than the flu. I'm not refuting that a hurt back is worse than the flu, but Mike had the flu and scored 38.
Right.
You were a decoy and did nothing all night.
Yeah, had like 8 points.
Yeah,
That's what
like-
they said. They said he just stood over there and took up someone just for him to be out there as a decoy.
and I'm not bashing him for it, but if you went out and scored 38 with a bad back, we'd be talking about that today
Oh,
too.
yeah, that's right. We'd
That-
still be talking about it.
That's the big difference.
Well, then was it the year the last year the Pistons beat him, or maybe it's the next year when they finally beat him? He was whining about having some headache.
The migraine game, that was the last
Oh,
year the
yeah.
Pistons beat him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
does he have
Yeah.
some migraine? Then he
Right.
doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and he misses a game in the playoffs for a migraine, and they lose, and the Pistons send him packing again. That gets brought up, but again, that's something we all knew about.
Right.
And the last really criticism of him was waiting until right before the season to have his ankle surgery in '98, which we all knew about. It was a big story then that Scottie was pissed off at the GM and the owner and stuff and stuck it to him on purpose. And all Mike did was say, "Yeah, you stuck it to them, but you also stuck it to me and the rest of the team,
Right.
which wasn't right." So I guess my big thing of Scottie is, dude, they could have gone in depth and into your arrests that happened during your career. They didn't even mention them. Everything they talked about was basketball related. You missed all these games because you waited to have your surgery, and we struggled because of it. You refused to go back into a basketball game. All these things, basketball. They didn't talk about the off-court issues you had, being arrested, all the kids you were having with all the women, things like that. That stuff never got brought up. The personal stuff never got brought up.
Nope.
And it was all stuff we already knew. There was no secret footage of locker room stuff that Scottie was doing that all of a sudden we were like, oh shit, Scottie did that. No,
Right.
there was no secrets let out. And so I don't understand why Scottie's so pissed. I don't think he was betrayed or portrayed badly in the documentary.
No. And Michael makes a point of saying he would not have won those titles without Scottie.
No.
Mhm.
And says Scottie was an elite player.
Mm-hmm.
Says very nice things about him.
Mm-hmm. And here's the other thing. The documentary criticized Mike.
Oh, yeah.
It criticized his treatment of his teammates.
It did.
His gambling.
Yes.
It even linked his gambling to his dad's death.
Right.
They brought that up on the documentary. There was no completely idolizing Mike in it.
No.
They talked about how great Mike was and all these things, but I don't get it. And then Scottie keeps going, well, he made the documentary about himself because it was about him. He owned it.
It was The Last Dance from Michael Jordan's perspective.
Yeah. He owned the rights to it.
Right.
He could do whatever he wanted with it. Just like you can do whatever you want with your book.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, is everything Michael said, or at least the documentary said, is facts.
Yeah.
You refuse to go back into a game, bro. Now you're just coming out saying ridiculous things. Like things that can't be backed up by facts.
Yeah.
I'm better than Michael Jordan. Jordan didn't come out and say he was better than Scottie. We all just know he was better than Scottie.
Right.
Like that, like Mike doesn't even say, I've never heard Mike say he's the greatest player of all time. Have you guys
Doesn't
ever?
have to.
No.
Yeah.
Have to, but that's the
Doesn't
thing.
have to.
That's when you know you're the GOAT, when you don't have to say it. Everyone just
Yeah.
knows it.
Mm-hmm.
But when LeBron goes out on the floor, he's got to prove it every night because we don't know he's the greatest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to tell us all the time. How many times has LeBron said,
my Lord.
I'm the greatest player of all time? We hear him say it regularly.
It's probably
Yeah.
his most recently used emoji on his phone is the GOAT. That or the crown.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the guy that's been the king and the chosen one and all these. Anyway, I don't want to make this.
Yeah, we'll do that
LeBron
another
James thing.
time.
Yeah. That'll be later.
But man, I kind of lost my train of thought here.
Well, one of the things I was going to think about was, thinking about the MVPs and Scottie's numbers. I'm trying to give him credit and saying, okay, his career numbers could have been higher if he didn't play with Mike.
Correct.
Well, there's 2 years he didn't play with Mike.
Correct.
And they were kind of in his prime a little
The
bit.
first year,
At
22, 8.7, 5.6.
Mm-hmm.
The second year was 19.4, 6.8, 5.9. That second year really dropped off. The Bulls were good the first year. They actually made the playoffs,
Second round
right?
of playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, now the second year, until Mike came back, they weren't doing well.
No, they were going to miss the playoffs until Mike came back.
Right, till
and they
Mike
went
came
in
back.
as a 6th seed.
With baseball, Michael Jordan, not basketball.
Yeah, and so if Scottie's better than Michael, why didn't he win the MVP those 2 years in between?
Oh, yeah.
Well, not just the MVP. Here's my thing. I know we've had this discussion before, but one of the things I look at with a lot of these guys is your peak. How good was your peak? At your peak, were you one of the best players in the NBA? What are your peak stats? Did you put up some elite numbers in the middle there? Those 2 years without Mike, Scottie should have put up huge numbers. Because we can go look. I mean, not that we're comparing him to Mike, but he keeps comparing himself to Mike. We can go look at Mike's stats pre-Scottie.
Yeah.
They're astronomical.
Right.
It's like 35, 7, and 7. Not 22, 8, and 5, which isn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad.
Not bad. It got him third in the MVP voting that year.
Yeah, but it's the best year of his. It's the highest scoring output of his career.
Right.
At 22. He scores 20 points a game in his career 4 times. I don't know. I'm not trying to bash on Scottie. He's on my list. I'm really not. I'm not trying to bash on him. There's a lot of. I'm not even trying to answer Ray's questions. I'm more trying to answer Scottie's questions. This is what I keep finding myself wanting to do. Like, where I'm like, oh, you're better than Mike? Oh.
Well, let me just say this real fast. When you have a dynamic duo like that, and you three-peated, and then your man just like, my dad died, I got to roll out. He loved baseball. He didn't want me to do this, and he leaves. And then you get that fucking big responsibility dump, just backtrack like 3 dump trucks in the back of your yard, and they expect you to be Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's a big fucking ordeal, and that's a big psyche thing to anybody anywhere. And I don't know if that was something that he had to deal with, but that's probably something that was in his mind. And I can't, with the media going at him and everything else, I can't even fathom what he had to deal with for those 18 months without Michael Jordan.
Well, I would agree with you that there was more pressure put on him. But this leads me into one of my more negative points with Scottie. Scottie is very mentally weak. And I think he proves that to us over and over again during his career. The not going back into the basketball game, that was a mentally weak moment. He couldn't handle the situation. He couldn't handle that the ball wasn't given to him, and he pouted like a child. I think the bad boy Pistons made them his bitch. Or, did I say that backwards?
We'll go with it. We know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the migraine game was a result of that. I'm not saying he faked a migraine, but I'm saying, like, I'm tired of dealing with these guys. These guys are beating me up. I need an excuse not to play. Not an but this is an excuse, and I can miss this game tonight Like,
or it gives me an excuse if I play bad and say, "Oh, I had a migraine. That's why I just wasn't feeling it tonight, guys," or something like that.
and I'm not saying it would have been easy or would have been fun or anything like that, but it's a playoff game, man. Like, and you missed it for a headache. Also, like, he just, I don't know. To me, maybe I'm leaving out a few things. Scottie just comes across really mentally weak to me. I told Mark a while back that I thought Scottie Pippen was one of the most mentally weak stars the NBA's ever had. And, of course, Mark thought I was crazy. And I'm sure a lot of people from and Chicago would agree with him. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'll go ahead and say this. Scottie is not a number one on a contender.
No. Scottie was maybe the best number 2 we've seen,
Yeah.
but he wasn't
Well, we saw
number 1.
We saw he couldn't
I
be a
don't think.
number one. We all saw it. I mean, the first year they made second, but that's, I think, the momentum from Michael leaving, and they just keep playing there. Well, you come off a championship, you're obviously going to feel good about yourself, and so. But then you can tell that second year when they lost, and after Scottie's issues and all this stuff, it just went downhill till
Who was
Mike
on
came
that
back.
93-94 team? with Scottie?
The first team that after with Mike
Right.
gone, Horace Grant was still there,
Okay, Grant.
and he was
still
their second leading scorer.
Right, yeah, I figured. Grant was good.
Yeah, let's just look it up.
They had Kukoc too at that time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tony would have been.
Um,
had been
They
there
would
a
have had
couple of years.
Kerr. Kerr would have been there.
I don't know if Kerr was there.
He was definitely on the year after because he talks about Michael coming back and how everything changed.
All right, here it is. B.J. Armstrong, Corey Blount, Bill Cartwright, JoJo English, Horace Grant, Dave Johnson, Steve Kerr is there, Stacey King, Tony Kukoc, Luke Longley, Pete Myers, John Paxson's still there,
Okay.
Will Perdue, Scottie Pippen, Bill Winnington, and Scott Williams.
Okay.
So that was right before Harper came in.
Yeah, Harper didn't get there till the second three-peat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Horace Grant was their second leading scorer, and B.J. Armstrong was their next leading scorer. I think B.J. Armstrong made an All-Star game that year. And then Kukoc had he averaged 11, 4, and 3 that year. Kukoc did. The team was pretty much the same team from the year before, just without Mike.
Yeah.
And they won 55 games that year. They were pretty good.
Who'd they end up losing to? Was it the Knicks?
Yeah, the Knicks beat them, I think.
And that was the
Yeah.
first year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have
'Cause
been
the next year that
Knicks
was the
Rocket.
Magic.
It would have been Knicks
Yeah.
Rockets finals.
Yeah. And then the next year
It
they
was-
lost to the Magic.
Right.
Because
By the way, though, Uncle Doug, I do disagree with your statement that he's the greatest number 2 of all time.
Well, I said maybe one. of
Oh,
the
okay.
greatest. I hadn't completely thought that through.
Because I mean, I'll just go one close to your heart. Magic was a number 2 to Kareem for a
For a
while.
while.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
Magic
A
for the
little
first
bit.
probably 5 years of his career would have been the number
yeah,
2.
then they
So I
flipped.
mean, I would put.
That's true.
I mean,
Yeah, I'll have to agree.
well, you can rephrase it and say the best number 2 that never became a number 1, something like that. Like,
Maybe. Yeah.
cause like,
Well, let's not sugarcoat what we're saying here.
well, here's my other thing too. The number 2 thing, or even number 3 thing, has gotten muddled recently. Because technically, we could say for a couple years, Steph Curry was a number 2.
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, with the super teams we've had lately, number 2 and number
D.
3.
Wade was a
have
number
gotten
2.
crazy.
D Wade was a number 2. James Harden's a number 2.
Number 2.
Kyrie Irving's
Right.
been a number 2.
Kevin Garnett, is he number
yeah,
2?
Garnett. Like,
Yeah.
So who was the number 2 on the Shaq Wade team then?
Kobe probably. Oh wait, no,
Oh.
Shaq Wade. No, my bad.
I would say Shaq, probably.
well,
I don't know.
that first year, I think the regular season wise, I think Shaq was better, but D Wade took over and won the
Yeah.
finals for him.
Yeah.
D. Wade took over.
That's probably the closest one.
Yeah. All right, I jumped the gun on the 2 thing. All right.
Oh, you didn't think about all these super
I hadn't
teams.
thought it through when I said it.
Oh, that is tough. I like that question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shaq.
that is good.
Well, again, this isn't the end all be all. It doesn't mean a ton, but we've done this before. Ray, if you take his championships away, what does that do to him?
I think he still outworks LeBron.
You still think he's number 2 on your list without championships?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to see a couple more individual accolades if he's going to probably even stay on my list, honestly. That's why I have him ahead of my 9 and 10 guys, just because of his 6 titles. And
He leaves my list without championships.
Yeah, I think he probably dropped.
He almost
something
leaves
as
your
well.
list with him, Alex.
Yeah, he's at the end of my list. But he would leave my list without his championships. Now, he does have championships, so I'm not trying to take him away from him. But I guess I was looking at it like, he was actually drafted by Seattle, and then the Bulls traded for him. What if that doesn't happen and he plays in Seattle his whole career? I mean, obviously we'll never know. I'm not trying to say that I can predict what would have happened, but I'll say he probably averages a couple more points a game, 18 or 19 maybe. A couple more things here or there.
We might have a big 3 maybe in Seattle with Kemp and Payton, so we'd have a Pippen, Kemp, Payton situation.
Yeah, maybe. Depends on what Scottie does to their franchise. If Scottie pushes them out of the lottery because then they don't draft those guys because they don't, they're not sucky,
Right.
I guess is what I'm saying. It depends on how good you think Scottie is and how much he propels their franchise. My other thing is without MJ pushing him and forcing him to come lift weights and, being essentially a dick to him and trying to make him stronger and less mentally weak and all these things, does Scottie turn into the player we know Scottie is?
I mean, that's true, too.
Right.
We don't know.
He might not have risen to that level without Mike. Because, they can say Mike didn't make players better, maybe, but Mike did. Mike
Wanted perfection.
he wasn't nice about it, but he had very high expectations for everybody he played with.
Well, I think the case can be made for Mike, for Kobe, for Larry, and there's a few I'm forgetting. But they were going to be a dick to you if they didn't feel like you were giving your all or using all your potential. And I think they made some players better. And I also think they ran players off.
Right.
Yeah.
Because some players
guys couldn't take it.
Yeah, some guys can't take that verbal abuse, I guess, is what you're going to
But
call
see,
it.
that's what I like because that's the competitive spirit in the serious players that you weed out the weak and you're bringing the people that want to play. Now, we talk about how Scottie is weak-minded. He stuck around. He stayed there. He had a bad couple of situations, but he stuck it out with Jordan. That's why I'm like, if it's not for Jordan, they're not winning either without each other. And then we go back to the LeBron situation. He just fucks over careers. He doesn't make anybody better except for his padded stat line.
I'll give you that one. He screws up careers big time.
Well, in teams, he leaves them in shambles when he leaves.
So
I'm afraid
the Lakers are going to the toilet.
It's like, oh man.
Every place he leaves goes to complete shit. So.
Yeah.
Hey, the Cavaliers are the 5 seed right now. So
I mean, it took them forever, but they're back.
Finally. We've done this several other times, so I wanted to do a little what if.
I like what ifs.
Okay.
Even though they don't
even though
lead us to too many places.
What if, instead of Scottie Pippen, Michael gets Grant Hill?
Well, they win quickly and briefly. I guess that's what.
It all depends on whether Grant Hill gets hurt in Chicago or not.
Make all of our lists because he didn't have titles.
I mean, Grant Hill's on my list without the titles.
Right, but if you move Grant in instead of Scottie,
I don't think it works.
I don't know. I think Grant is the kind of player that could play with Michael.
Well, here's the thing. Grant, or Hill, or whatever you want to call him, Grant Hill, offensively, is better than Scottie Pippen.
Oh, yeah. He's going to score more.
Oh.
And he's at least as good a passer.
Yeah.
But he's not as good as Scottie defensively.
Okay.
Michael would be asked
mean-
to guard more. You wouldn't be able to like flip flop fresh defenders like they were able to do. So
Mhm.
that
You
was,
also have to remember, Michael was a 9-time All Defensive,
he had the defense player of the year too.
and he was 9-time first team, whereas Scottie was 8-time first team, 2-time second team.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike played some pretty good defense too.
And we've talked about the Grant Hill thing about where he was Jordan-esque at times,
Right.
but then the injury happened.
Right. Yeah.
So-
of course, I mean that's
that's a whole nother way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was looking at some small forwards in the '90s that they talked about, and they talked about Scottie, and they talked about Glenn Rice, Chris Mullins, Dominique, Grant Hill. But the Grant Hill just jumped out at me
Yeah.
because Dominique obviously was a scorer, Mullins was more of a shooter, Rice was definitely a shooter. Also on that small forward list, because the first few years he played small forward, is Rodman.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of interesting things if they had kept Grant at power and put Rodman at small forward.
Mm.
But then you're taking out a scorer.
But Grant could score. Horace Grant. I'm talking about Horace
Right,
Grant.
yeah.
Power
Yeah,
forward.
Oh yeah.
Rodman's not going to score much. But really, it could have been interesting.
Here's my thing with the Scottie Pippen situation. Maybe it would. I don't know how it would have ended up with different players or whatnot, but I think there are a multitude of players in NBA history that could have filled Scottie Pippen's role and won championships with Michael Jordan.
Yes.
We are talking about a guy that is viewed as the greatest or second greatest player of all time by almost everybody. I mean, not just in this room, but everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't think that I think there are a lot of guys that could have won championships playing with Michael Jordan. That's really the way I feel about it, and that's why Scottie does fall down my list, because I don't think that he's the only guy that could do it, or one of a few guys that could do it. I think there are a ton of guys that could have done it.
Who
No.
are the few you're talking about? Throw some examples.
I don't know. Most of the guys on our list, if not all the guys on our list.
Okay, let's go down.
We're talking about just like small forwards replace Scottie.
Yeah.
Or wings in general, I guess.
well-
you know, I mean, it doesn't have to be. I guess you could put a power forward or center there as well, or I don't know.
The one that really pops out to me is probably Kawhi. Would be probably the best fit because he's more closest to Pippen.
I would say Kawhi and Pippen are similar.
Grant Hill, I don't think he would have fit exactly. I don't think he would have been the player that we've seen today if he would have got drafted to the Bulls. I think he would have got shot down a couple levels, and he wouldn't have been that kind of player.
Why is that?
I just think he would have took probably the back seat to the Air Jordan era.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't. He would be the second best player. I mean, I fully agree with that. I think he'd be the second best player behind Mike.
But
I
I mean,
think I say that about everybody.
I mean, with him being on the Pistons, he was on a top tier type of level above, closer to Jordan, way above Pippen, But then the injury happened, and then, but I see Grant Hill at a higher level by himself, and if he would have went with Jordan, it wouldn't have been like that.
Well, I agree. I think everybody puts up bigger numbers being the number one guy on a bad team. I think that's always the case. That's why that was part of our knock on Pippen, is where's these huge numbers when you're the guy.
And I think Grant Hill showed that he could play with another star when he was at Duke. Played with Christian Laettner,
That's true.
who was a jerk.
Yeah.
And Grant Hill still thrived and helped the team and made the team better. And I don't know. I just thought Grant was interesting because I always
Yeah.
liked Grant. But I think you're right. I think playing with Mike needed another star. Scottie came along at the right time.
In reality, everybody needs another star.
Right.
There's probably only 1, 2, 3 people all time or teams all time that won a championship with one superstar.
Yeah.
And almost every championship team ever has at least two superstars on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do give Scottie credit for those titles.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you. I think there are other guys that, if Mike had another big name there, I think he could have done it as well.
But you don't seem to agree, Ray.
I just feel like it would have been a big headbutt situation. But Scottie, he just filled the piece perfectly, and it just worked out. With, okay, let's say we throw LeBron in there. That's not working.
No,
That's definitely not working out.
I don't think LeBron and Mike would have gotten along.
Well, first off, LeBron's going to be a power forward. We got to put that in perspective at 6'9", how big he is. He's not handling the ball as a little kid growing up and all this stuff. So he'll be more of a power forward than I think this small forward that we think of him nowadays, or point forward or whatever. That's what LeBron will be doing.
I think there is a fair case to be made that LeBron wouldn't play like LeBron today because it just wouldn't have been allowed.
No.
They would tell him to go post people up because he's bigger and stronger.
I mean, they almost would have thrown him maybe at point guard because of his, his stature close to Magic. I mean, if he has the handles like he does, he would almost been point guard.
That may be true, but Scottie did a lot of that for the Bulls when they were playing. Scottie did handle the ball a lot. So I think I don't have as much problem with them playing together as you guys may have, because I think LeBron can do a lot of the things Scottie can do, only he does them better. He's a better ball handler than Scottie. He's a better passer than Scottie.
Better rebounder.
He's a better rebounder. He's probably a better scorer. Scottie doesn't shoot well, so it's not like they're losing anything shooting-wise with LeBron. I don't think LeBron is the defender Scottie is, but LeBron early in his career was a very good defender. Not necessarily the level of Scottie, but he was very good. So I don't know that it would have been a huge problem in a lot of ways.
Well, maybe not. The way I see LeBron today, half his game he sacrifices to shoot jumpers, which he is a fucking tank and should be taken to the paint a little more often instead of being a vagina and sitting outside.
And again,
I don't disagree with you, but he is in year, 19?
Yeah, but he's been doing that for 10 years. Getting these little wrist slap calls because he's the face of the NBA.
and not going back on defense and going.
Yeah, the only highlight you ever see is that one play for every 10 games of him running down a block.
I do think there are players on our list though that would cause problems. Mike and Kobe couldn't play together.
No. The egos would be so.
That would not work.
No, not at all. And I'm sure there are more I'm forgetting, but guys that are clearly alpha dogs and can't handle being a second fiddle would struggle to play with Mike. AI would not handle playing with Mike well. Yeah, I do agree with that. But, I've often thought that Scottie and Mike aren't a perfect fit because they did a lot of the same things. Like, what if you matched Michael up with, a great center instead, with Ewing or Olajuwon or Robinson or any of those guys that played at the same time? I think that might have been a more natural, perfect fit than playing with another wing. And that's not even a shot at Scottie. I just think, as far as fit goes, you guys there's two wings playing together, and it was a outside game instead of a inside out game, which seems to complement each other better, I guess is the way I'm looking at it. We've seen it over the years with tons of guys.
Well, what if I don't know, somehow how this falls, what if after that year Michael leaves, they do that normal, but then when does Scottie's contract run out and then he signs that dumb one?
He signs that extension somewhere during his rookie contract.
Right, and then complained about it because it was
dumb and long.
Not
it was what 7 years, $18 million or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, was they didn't do it that long, and he has after the year. So Michael leaves, So that year's regular, but then after that, they tank and like, oh no, never mind, it wouldn't work. Never mind. I was just saying, what if somehow the Bulls say they trade Scottie to the Magic and they draft Shaq, and then Michael comes back and it's Michael and young Shaq. Just something like they trade Horace, Scottie for the number 1 pick, draft Shaq, and then Michael comes back. Imagine that.
I mean that's you're talking about two of the most dominant players of an era playing together. So I think it's ridiculous to try and think about.
But we see it all the time now.
Well, I mean that's fair too.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, and this isn't a shot at anybody. It's just I really feel this way. I don't think there's currently anybody playing that dominated a league, not only the way Mike did, but for at least a 3, 4, 5 year stretch, the way Shaq did.
Right.
Shaq just completely manhandled an entire league and was untouchable.
He bullied everybody.
He did.
Like defensive player of the year, like the year when Tembo did it, and they played him in the finals. He just bullied him.
Yeah, he was like, I'll give you 36 a night, bro. Let's see which is defensive player of the year. This. Yeah. Like, I mean, there was
right.
And whenever
you do about it.
And whenever Shaq wanted to rebound, he'd go get it.
Yeah. Right. And when Shaq decided to play defense, he was a really nice shot blocker.
Oh yeah.
And even when he got kind of fatter and slower, he could still get up and down the floor just fine. Like,
yeah.
Well, the man is incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, you hear the story about I forget which center it was for Utah that made him mad.
Oyster tag.
I think it was Oyster tag. Yeah.
Good old Greg.
And it doesn't punch him. He just goes up and slaps him and like levels him. I mean, Shaq is incredibly strong.
Yeah.
I see the problem between Shaq and MJ being their approach to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
same way with Kobe.
MJ, yeah, similar.
Right.
MJ would have screamed and yelled and cussed at Shaq all the time for being lazy.
Right.
Now, maybe, since, it's Michael Jordan, maybe Shaq cleans up and shows up in shape more often.
And it's Shaq's rookie year coming in the league before he gets all this stardom. And
that's true.
And he's not the face of the franchise. He's not big-headed. He's with Michael.
It's true. Or maybe Shaq treats it the same way he did Kobe, and it doesn't last very long. Yeah. Not to say that it wasn't successful in L.A. anyway. I mean, they won 3 championships. So, but, yeah. Like I said, I think we've done a lot of what ifs at this point. We're what ifing the crap out of this. I don't want this to be like a what if episode. Shout out Disney. But back to actual Scottie stuff. All right, Ray.
I've been waiting.
I've been waiting on our little segment that we have, asking Ray why.
I know you've covered it a little bit here so far, but why exactly is Scottie ahead of LeBron on your list?
I just feel like he just outworks LeBron. He doesn't. His talent was all on the floor. He didn't save anything just to save it, just to be a bitch about stuff. Pippen at least went at you 100% on the floor. LeBron just kind of, whatever, because he's on his pedestal that he's been on for the last 18 years. He's been riding his train. LeBron seems to be chasing Michael Jordan, which apparently he can't catch.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I don't think he's caught Mike. I personally don't think he's caught Mike. I don't think any of the 5 of us have LeBron ranked ahead of Mike. I'm not incorrect in saying that, right?
No.
All right.
No, LeBron's not ahead of Mike.
Not even close.
But you are the only one of us that have Scottie ranked ahead of LeBron.
And his attitude just is, I just don't like it. I don't know how to explain it. He just irritates me. I was watching the game the other night. He wasn't playing for like the 4th night in a row. We got Frank Vogel sitting on the bench, and we got LeBron James trying to coach the whole team. Bro, what the fuck are you doing? You ain't playing. Sit the fuck down. If you're not going to play in the game, then sit over there. You're not really that injured. We don't want to hear about your I'm resting my fucking toe or something. Just sit over there and shut the fuck up.
It was his abs. Right?
Yeah, his abs.
Exactly. That's the shit I be talking about.
Alex, you're not helping. The toe sounded a lot better than the abs.
And you just over there like, okay, you do this, 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 and this. And it's like, shut the fuck up and go sit down. You just really irritating the shit out of me. We know you're just waiting around to play with your son. Just shut up. You're ruining his team already by bringing 8 NBA Live covers to your team. What the hell are you doing here? You're destroying the Lakers by you throwing your weight around because you think you're the GOAT of the whole NBA, and you just irritate the shit out of me with your attitude to think you're on this big pedestal trying to chase the GOAT that you're never going to get. And he just kills me. And we'll save that again, and I'll say it again on the LeBron episode.
Well, one thing back up there, right? I think he's waiting on 2 things: play with his son, and then catch Kareem. I think
points-wise, you mean?
I think as soon as he catches Kareem, he'll finally call it quits.
I think he's trying to catch Mike in titles, though. I think he brought these guys in to try and win a title.
Yeah, that too, but his record is just so bad that I don't even know if he gets the 6. People will even respect the 6 that he got. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Well, I guess, I don't want to be the LeBron supporter. I really don't. I can't stand the man.
Well,
but I'm going to have to talk about LeBron here for a minute, Ray. I mean, he averages 11 more points a game than Scottie. He averages another rebound, 2 more assists, 4/10 less of a steal, the exact same amount of blocks. He shoots better from the field, better from 3, and better from the free throw line. He has more MVPs, more All-NBAs. He doesn't have as many titles, but he's the best player on 4 championship teams.
yes.
And you'll have that in a weaker competition poll than you did in the 90s.
I agree with that. He also has 10 more All-NBAs. He's a 4-time Finals MVP. He was a Rookie of the Year. And he's 6-time All-Defense. Not 10 like Scottie, but he does have 6 All-Defensive teams. He also has a scoring title.
Is it just me or does he look dumb in his basketball reference picture?
His basketball reference picture is goofy.
Like, those wrinkles look like almost he has glasses on. Like, that is an awful picture.
Yeah, they didn't pick the greatest picture for, not Scottie, LeBron.
Oh.
I had LeBron pull up over here so I can tell you this stuff. So I will say, Ray, I think it's going to be hard to convince people of your Pippen over LeBron take. And what Drew just pointed at me is LeBron's position has 4 positions listed.
Everything but center.
Yeah, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward on here.
No, I figured it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be hard. But I knew I was going to bring something a little bit. And my strong bias against LeBron James is very strong. So that's why Pippen's up there a little bit. So
I'll be with you on that. I probably have a little bit of a LeBron bias and all that stuff. I still have to respect what he's doing.
I mean, LeBron is right behind Pippen, right at top 10. So I'm not against LeBron's talent.
Yeah, it's not like you have LeBron way down there. And
Like, I know the man's great. But I just feel like Pippen was just against better competition. They gave him a little bit more of an edge during the 90s than LeBron does in this whole 18 years of crap competition against the 10 people that he took 5 from to put on his team.
it's fair.
So we talked about LeBron. So Bird and LeBron, because you have Bird 1.
Yeah.
Wade also has Bird ranked higher than Scottie. So I'll leave that alone. And we just talked about LeBron. Wade, who is closest to you, has Durant ranked ahead of Scottie.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of us do too.
Yes.
But Wade's your closest guy, so I'm trying to get rid of all the guys you guys don't have in common. So Wade has Durant at 3 on the small forward list.
Okay.
where do you know where you have Durant?
Ooh.
But while you're looking, why Scottie over Durant?
Pretty much the same kind of thing. The talent pool. I have Durant at 35.
Oh.
So I feel like, I mean, he's won his 2 titles, but it's the same kind of deal. The super team collaboration. I mean, he's probably one of the best scorers of all time. I'll give him that one. But I mean, he's more of a one-dimensional player with, sprinkles of defensive and other abilities at times. So we got to throw it down a little bit. I wanted to see him do it on his own, which we've kind of seen shades of in Oklahoma City with a couple rookie guys that we didn't see greatness until a couple years later, of Harden and Westbrook. But I want to see something out of Durant by himself, and he's not doing that. He keeps doing the same thing LeBron does. So that's why he's down my list a little bit.
Yeah, you have him at 7th on your small forward
Yeah.
list. Durant's all the way at 7.
Oh, moly.
That's quite a ways lower.
Yeah.
But to do the same thing I did with LeBron, he has 11 more points per game, 1 more rebound, 1 less assist, a little bit down on the steals. He averages more blocks than Scottie. He shoots better from the field, better from 3, and better from the free throw line. Obviously, Scottie does have 6 championships to Durant's 2. But he's 11-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA. He's still playing. He's a 4-time scoring champ. He's an MVP. He's a 2-time Finals MVP. He was Rookie of the Year.
It's just a competition. It weighs heavily in this list. Like, I know he's got this major padded stat line. I got it. And I'm not taking away from his scoring ability because he's one of the best. But you got to go against somebody. You guys can't keep bringing competition to your team and thinking, oh, yeah, I won a bunch of titles and I'm the greatest of all time. You got to go against somebody and show me something. You can't just have fucking 28 points a game and say, oh, yeah, look at my shit. No, you got to go against somebody and show me that you actually played against somebody on a different team. And that's where I'm at. Like, you can't just show me stats and say, cool. You got to play against competition.
Okay. All right. So that gets us out of the area where you and Wade disagree. So now Wade has Scottie ranked higher than everybody else that you have him ranked ahead of. So that includes guys like Dr. J, Rick Barry, who am I forgetting here? Paul Pierce. Anybody want to help me out here? I'm drawing a blank here on small forwards.
Elgin Baylor, John Havlicek.
Yeah, Baylor and Havlicek. Yep, good call.
That's
see.
That's basically it.
Kawhi Leonard.
Dominique.
Yep, Dominique.
He played in a prime era.
So did Dr. J.
Yeah, and they both scored whenever they wanted, however they wanted.
So most of the power forward or small forwards here got a pretty good point stat line. We'll look at Havlicek's assists. All-time 2 under Pippen. Rebounds are pretty good, but he don't even rank on the steals list.
Because they didn't keep track of steals.
Well,
Yeah,
Bird, like I said, a couple stats below. We'll look at Grant Hill, another guy on my list. He's pretty low below, but that's because of an injury. Pierce is miles below on a few stats. Irving comes close, but, I mean, I watched Pippen, so Irving's going to be a little bit out of my window. And then Rick Barry's a little bit out of my window, and he's off a couple stat lists, so...
Well, can I talk to you about old Hondo here for a minute? Because I think Hondo is a great comparison to Scottie.
Okay.
Hondo averages 4 more points. They average almost the exact same amount of rebounds. He does have Havlicek a little bit in assists, about 4/10 there. And then steals and blocks don't really have anything in this because they didn't keep track of them for most of Havlicek's career. and he does shoot a little bit better from the field, and there's no three-pointers for Havlicek, who shoots 11% better from the free throw line. But Havlicek has 6 championships not as the best player as well. And then he went out and won 2 as the best player on the team. Havlicek was considered one of the greatest defensive players of an era. He has 13 All-Stars, 11 All-NBAs, and he's an 8-time All-Defensive guy. And he played like 5 years of his career before there was an All-Defensive team. He's a Finals MVP. I think there's a legit case that Havlicek and... Well, first of all, Havlicek and Scottie are very similar as far as their careers go. You have anything to say about that, Ray?
The only thing I can say is Havlicek is impressive. He's just out of an era I didn't get to watch. I watched Pippen, so I got to throw a little bias towards Pippen. Other than that, I think Pippen's got, probably a better all-around skill set that he can do just about everything. Havlicek, I think, kind of gets stuck in the scoring category. I mean, he's good at defense, but I think he gets stuck in the scoring category there, and that's probably much his primary skill set.
Well, I mean, he was the leading scorer on 4 championship teams. But like I said, he rebounds just as well as Scottie. He almost has the same amount of assists per game as Scottie. Like you said, the 8-time All-Defense. I don't know that he's just a scorer.
Right. No, I got that.
And he played with, at the time, one of the best players in the league, and he won 6 titles with him just like Scottie did. But then when Russell left, Hondo did it by himself for a couple of years.
That's true.
So I see how he did it. The 2 years Scottie didn't have Michael, he didn't do it. And then the 2 years it was like Hondo didn't have Russell, he did it. So I guess you could say that.
No, I can see that argument. I've sseen Pippen. I didn't see Havlicek.
None of us saw.
And that's a fair argument. I mean, Havlicek did play a long time ago. I mean, I guess Uncle Doug would have been able to see Havlicek.
Yeah, I saw the end of his career.
Yeah. But yeah, none of the rest of us would have seen Havlicek play. I don't know. I didn't look at. Hold on. Every episode, I feel like my computer has to be goofy for a second.
Take a fat crap and then come back.
If tech doesn't give you problems, then it's not tech.
That may be true. And then we talk about Elgin Baylor. I know it's the same time period as Havlicek, pretty much. He played a little bit earlier, retired a little bit sooner, but 11 more points, more than double the rebounds, almost as many. I mean, he's 1 less assist. Scottie shoots better from the field. He shoots better from the line. No three-pointers, obviously. Scottie does have more championships, obviously.
Yes, we discussed that for a while, how Elgin and Jerry did not win. And how the year he retires midway through, they do win. That was a long debate.
Yes, and he also has no MVPs.
Which, again, I think that was one of the times where we talked about the ridiculous stat lines that were getting picked up and how he could at least maybe got one.
Well, actually, I was looking at this the other day, not obviously to rehash this, but the year we picked out that Baylor, we really threw a fit about Baylor winning MVP or not winning MVP. He had like 36 points and 18 rebounds and something like that. Mm-hmm. That was the same season that Wilt averaged 50.
Oh.
And Russell won the MVP.
Right, Russell got the MVP.
Russell was the MVP, but that was the year that Wilt went, 50 and 25. So if Russell didn't win the MVP, I still don't think Baylor would have won.
Wilt doing that.
You want to hear something ridiculous I heard the other day? That Wilt never scored 100. They say that he never did it. They just faked it all. I'm like, why would they all just fake it?
I think Wilt scored 100. I don't think it, when you say it out loud, I think people picture in their head like he scored 100 in the flow of a game, and that's not how it happened. I mean, all the eyewitness accounts say that like at the end of the game, the other team gave up because they wanted to see it too, and they were like throwing him the ball and turning the ball over on purpose to get him the ball so he could get to 100. Like, yeah, it's not as legit as like, oh, like actually in the course of a game they kept feeding him the ball and he scored 100 points, but it's still stupid
It
impressive.
is.
Like, at least 50 of those were probably before.
Oh, I bet more than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because he was scoring 50 regularly,
routinely,
all the time. And so I don't think when he gets to 50, teams are like, oh, he could get 100 tonight, let's start screwing up. I think you got to get to 70 or 80 before somebody starts going, maybe he can get 100 tonight. And he's not a great free throw shooter, and he made like almost all of his free throws that night. He missed like 2 free throws that night or something.
And and obviously he's only shooting 2, so he has to. There's no he's not pulling up 3s in transition.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get back to some questions for Ray. Let's get outside of small forward.
Okay.
I don't want to just be this position thing. But you have Scottie ranked ahead of Shaq. Would you care to elaborate? And not tell me that you just think he's better than Shaq?
No. That might be a stretch there for Shaq, because Shaq's a pretty dominant player. I mean, there are some crazy things on my list. Let's just say that. Shaq should probably, we'll say he should probably be above Scottie. That might be a miscue on my part, but yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, because Wade didn't agree with you on that either. Wade has Shaq quite a bit higher than Scottie. My next one is Kobe. You have Scottie ahead of Kobe.
I don't know. Be totally honest, this has been such a long time ago, and I had a nice thing going, and I had something in my head.
That were coming up on the...
But I don't know right now. I think the point of the conversation when I was doing this list was Pippen above LeBron. Pippen above LeBron.
And you weren't worried after that.
I wasn't worried about anybody else. Just make sure Pippen was above LeBron. So, I mean, this is probably going to be a big restructuring after this whole thing goes down.
So what about the mailman? You got him ahead of mailman as well.
Oh, man.
Because Scottie insulted him.
Well, I don't know about that.
Did Scottie insult mailman?
Mailman don't live on Sunday.
Oh, that. I thought you meant like recently.
No, not recently. That's
No, that was clever as shit.
No,
I like that.
Yeah, I love
classic.
that.
I think maybe a defensive aspect with Karl, but other than that, I'm not real sure, because Karl Malone was mostly the scorer.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Scottie's a better defender than Mailman. Mailman wasn't a great defender. I don't think that's any secret. And I mean, Mailman doesn't have any titles, so I mean, I think there's a case to be made. I'm not trying to. I wasn't like coming at you hard with that one. Wade again has Mailman higher than. So he has Mailman at number 2 on his power forward list. Mailman's in the top 10.
I think I was trying to keep like it really balanced, and then I just kind of like, I don't know what I was doing, and then I don't know. I was just trying to keep. There was a certain skill set with everybody I was trying to get, just fully balanced defense, offense, and everything else, and then amongst like maybe past 10 players, everything else was like just scoring. Everybody was just scoring, and just had sprinkles of everything that they could do from time to time. But I think that's what I was trying to get at, have the most balanced top 50 there was from what I witnessed and from what the stat line was, and that's what I was trying to get at. But I don't know what the hell I was doing, putting Shaq above Pippen, or putting Pippen above Shaq. That was, I don't know.
Hey, we've all admitted to boo-boos so far.
Yeah.
We've all had those. I get it, man. Like, especially once you got so engrossed in this. There were times, like, even things I caught later before I finalized, I'd be like, why is he there? Oh, I don't know. And like, I don't know how you guys did it, but I'll tell a little story of how I did it. Once I finalized my 10s, like I had my 10 point guards, my 10 shooting guards, and that's how I did it. My 10s were done first. And then I sat down with my list of 10s and said, now I got to order my 50. And what I would do is to make sure I didn't put my positions out of order. Like when I would put somebody, like I put Mike down first. I went to my shooting guard list and crossed Mike off. But then I couldn't then put, AI down. Kobe had to go before him. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I was trying to make sure that and I think sometimes I got so engrossed in my number 2 shooting guard is still sitting there, and I'm on 5 on my centers.
Yeah,
Maybe I should put
Yeah.
my number 2 shooting guard down instead of just going off who I actually thought was better. And
I struggled with that too.
Mhm.
because I
remember
felt
that
weird. I'm like,
process.
I'm only at the number 3 shooting guard, but I'm 8 centers down the board.
exactly,
I
yeah.
feel like I should, but at the same time, like, no, I don't think he's better than.
Yeah, I think there was some struggle there in making sure you were doing what was right. All right. Well, Ray, while I asked Doug and Drew some questions, do you want to grab my list and see if you can come up with any questions for me? I'm sure going the opposite direction, because obviously I have Pippen ranked so low. There's not going to be any guys be like, "Why do you have Pippen ranked ahead of so and so?"
Let's see.
So Drew, buddy, old pal.
Here we go.
Well, actually, I'll go Uncle Doug because Uncle Doug has him ranked higher than you.
Because I have him at 41. There
Yeah,
can't be-
you're
there
not-
can't be too
you're
many
back.
people that.
So, Uncle Doug, you have him ahead of old Willis Reed. A guy that is the best player on 2 championship teams.
This is true.
You could now. I will say this: I am not looking at my list, but I believe I have Scottie ahead of Willis as well. But I still propose the question.
Probably number of titles and the shortness. Actually, I have Scottie's 33 and Willis is 34, so they're not much different. But and probably the length of Willis's career hurts him a little bit. He did get cut short.
I lied. I have Willis at 46, so he's
Okay.
2 spots higher than Scottie.
So
All right, fair enough. I just he was the first name I saw there. What about old Patrick Ewing, Uncle Doug? The title
Again,
thing?
Patrick never got a title.
Yeah, fair enough.
A lot of the reason Scottie's at where he is on my list is because of the titles. Titles carry a lot of weight.
Especially 6. And I think those were well-earned titles for Scottie. He played huge roles
he
in
did.
those.
He played well.
We can't just say he sat on the bench for the whole series and did nothing. He did stuff for all 6 of those. I think you could say. Obviously not the best on any of them, but I think everyone could agree definitely the second best for all of them.
All right, Uncle Doug, I'm going to throw you a couple players here in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Clyde Drexler, George Gervin, Allen Iverson. 2 of which don't have titles as well.
Right.
So why do you think you put those guys ahead of...
Probably stats.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean they're so much ahead of him, especially in scoring. Gervin, Iverson, yeah, and Clyde was pretty versatile.
Well, Clyde did a lot of good things. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever looked at them head to head, but which we can do real quick. But Clyde was a good rebounder and good passer.
Well,
as
actually,
well.
while we were thinking about this earlier when we were talking about people, I looked over here and I was like, I didn't know if we were doing shooting guards yet or not, but I was like, I think Clyde could have filled
Well, Clyde was
Scottie's role just fine.
20.4 points, 6.1 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 2 steals.
Yeah, if you look at him, I got him pulled up side by side here. He has 4 more points, same amount of rebounds, same amount of assists, same amount of steals, almost exact same blocks. And then you're looking. They both shoot 47% from the field. They both shoot not great from 3.
Yeah.
At 31.8 and 32.6. So I mean they're less than a 1%. And Clyde shoots 8% better from the free throw line. Their numbers are almost identical.
Yeah.
And when Clyde was by himself, he put up huge numbers. And when he went with Olajuwon in Houston, he did what he had to do to win 2 titles. Well, one.
One
When he
title.
won. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
one
bad.
title. Yep.
When he was there,
So.
he did what he had to. He didn't care. He was okay with being number 2. So
Yeah, I mean, Clyde's peak is definitely far and away better than Scottie's, numbers wise. But yeah, so it's an interesting. I didn't really think about the Clyde comparison before right now.
Yeah, that is a good comparison.
All right, Drew,
Oh,
I'm back
boy.
to you again. And remember, I have Scottie ranked even lower, so this isn't hate. These are just questions.
Okay.
But you have Scottie at 41.
Yes.
So why is Bob Cousy ahead of him? They both have 6 championships as the second best player,
Mm-hmm.
and you think you can beat one of them 1-on-1. I don't think you think you can beat Scottie 1-on-1.
No, I cannot. I'll give you that. I don't know. I think it's just because like the era Bob Cousy played in, he dominated at the position of point guard. He was doing stuff that other point guards weren't. I think that more influenced me a little bit. That had Bob Cousy ahead of Scottie. That's about it. And obviously championships same, so all that's just I just think there.
Well, I do have an interesting one here that I don't agree with you on.
Oh boy.
You have Anthony Davis ahead of Scottie Pippen.
I do have Anthony Davis, yes.
Yes.
Probably have to go with stats. Anthony Davis, he's still in his peak right now, so all of his are still high, and coming off his championship too. So I was probably riding that, and all his stats are just way higher than Sky's right now because Sky's longevity definitely knocked his down. Anthony, he hasn't hit that at all, and when he plays, he plays a lot. And all of his stats are high, so that's probably why I have Anthony Davis ahead of him. I went ahead and ranked him higher than what other people did before he's retired or something. Hopefully, no injuries, indiscreet, or anything like that. We don't want that. But
Fair enough. So this is my last one for you, Drew. You have Elgin Baylor at 19, so pretty high.
ooh,
A guy that has 0 championships.
Yeah.
But then somebody with like Scottie with 6 championships, you have in the 40s. You want to touch on that and tell us why so lopsided on that?
see, I don't know. I feel like throughout my list, it goes both ways there. I think at times where I have people who score a lot lower, with people who have championships higher, but at the same time, like you just said, it's flipped. I don't know. I think it just depends on where they're at and like what stat lines they're looking at. Because I think Elgin's stat line is way better than Sky's, even though he has 0 championships. I think when I was thinking he played with Wilt and Bill Russell and all them, I think I was thinking like he had those guys to worry about all the time, stealing all of the accolades and stuff, because no one else won MVP besides those guys. We've talked about how the MVP was won by a center from how long till
Like 20 years.
yeah,
or something,
so they didn't hand it to anybody else. So I think that's why I think Elgin just scored so much more than what Scottie did, I think. And then obviously we don't have steals or blocks or any of that to know actually what Elgin did on defense. So I think that's why.
Fair enough. Now I'm going to ask a question to the group real quick before I have Ray come after me. This is something I've thought about a lot recently. Where is the breakdown? Obviously, this is going to be personal to each one of us. Where is the breakdown between how much championships are worth, and I mean different championships are worth too. Best player, second best player, role player, whatever the case may be. Championships are worth, and where stats and other things are worth. Because that's something I'll go ahead and go first, I guess. That's something I have struggled with a few times. Is obviously Mike having 6 championships as the best player is worth a ton. I mean, he's number 1. But it's like Scottie has 6 championships. They're obviously not worth as much as Mike's because he's not the best player on these championships. But is 6 second best player championships worth more than a guy that dominates him statistically? Is it worth more than a guy that has 1 or 2 best player on championship teams? Is it a guy that has a championship as like, okay, for instance, let's use Magic. He has 5 championships. At least 2 of them are as the second best player. So let's say he has 3 as the best player and 2 as the second best player. I'm not saying Magic's not as good as Scottie. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, like, where is that breakdown? It's hard for me to be like, oh man, because I do have guys like Malone and Barkley, and higher than Scottie on my list because statistically they're just so far superior to him, and even in the awards they're so superior to him. But he has 6 championships.
Well, I think you have to balance the championships with the other awards, and the stats. It's a combo thing, and so to some extent you do get a little subjective there. It's not just cold hard. 6 championships beats 5. It's like you said. Are you the best? Are you the second best? Or are you Robert Horry?
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I mean, Robert's got 7.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong. I love Big Shot Bob, but
We all know what Big Shot Bob's role was on all those teams.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and even toward the end of his career with the Lakers, they didn't even worry about the regular season. He
No,
was
they
just ready for
some years he
playoffs.
didn't even play that much in regular season, but his minutes were like double or even tripled the amount in the playoffs because they knew he'd show up, and
So
make shots.
I think we have to dig into the championships like we have tried to do, and also look at things like MVPs and other stuff that shows where you were ranked within the league.
Yeah.
Right, kind of like in Sky's scenario, the years he didn't have Michael, see what he could have done by himself. Like those, if you have that kind of scenario, I know not all players have that. Like what we did with Hondo and Sky, the years they didn't have the guy they were always behind. They were playing second fiddle to what they did without him, and one went up and the one kind of went up a little bit, but not too much. So,
Ray?
I think the way you got to break it down is stats get a certain percentage, titles get a certain percentage, and then the competition you go against gets a certain percentage. And it all kind of gets weighted. Like the 80s were pretty heavily the competition were pretty heavy, so the stats get a little bit more heavy. And then you go to today's competition, they have massive stat lines. So the competition kind of drops down to stat line a little bit. So you have to kind of weigh out the three different spots, the titles, competition, and stats all together, because not all competition is created equal, and some people get more stats based on the competition you go against. So you kind of have to go all 3 in a circle and kind of determine what's going on.
Fair enough, Ray. I don't necessarily disagree with anything you just said. I don't know, it was something I struggled with, then and now. So I just wondered what everybody else thought about it. All right, Ray. And anybody else as well is willing that wants to ask me questions about my list as well, obviously, but I just told Ray to do it earlier, so.
Okay, so I get the Reggie Miller one, so we won't talk about that. I get Tracer McGrady, so we won't go into that one. You asked, what was it, Drew, about Bob Cousy? Why do you have Bob Cousy above Scottie Pippen?
Really, I did weigh championships fairly heavily, and I think their championships, like I said, match up. They're second best player on 6 championship teams apiece, so that was there. And I think the MVP for Cousy was into effect there, and that's probably the main reason. I don't think I have Cousy too much higher than him, do I?
38 to about 10 spots higher.
Is it 10 spots?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The MVP, and probably just also like where he ranked player-wise in his era, probably had a decent amount to do with it.
Okay, and then the big one that kind of shouts that at me is Kevin McHale. Do you have 21 on your list?
Yeah, I do have Kevin McHale up there pretty high.
Because he has 3 titles, no MVPs. So I just kind of wondering about that per se.
You know, I have thought about my McHale ranking here recently. You know, and I think at least part of that may have had to do where I had them ranked positionally.
Okay.
You know, kind of what I was talking about earlier because I had McHale at 6 on my power forward list, and then I had Scottie at 10 on my small forward list. You know, and the top power forwards are really good. You know, Duncan, Garnett, Mailman, Barkley, those guys, you know, came off my list pretty quickly. I think some of it may have had to do with just McHale was sitting there.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe. I don't. Honestly, I'm trying to think of what I was thinking at that time.
Because I'm not trying to knock McHale because I got him on my list as well. I just don't have him up there as high.
No, and yeah, I think you and I and Wade all have McHale on our list. I remember that. I just pulled up their stats so I can look at it, try and figure something out. I mean, he outscores them, he out rebounds them. Not surprising there as far as rebounds. And obviously, Scottie much more assists. He has steals, he has blocks. McHale's more efficient. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure why on that one, to be honest with you.
Okay. Well, that's all I got. That was the McHale one was the only big one that shot out at me. All the other ones we could probably make cases for, but I don't think we got all that time to go through 20 players right now. So, but okay, that's all I got.
Uncle Doug, Drew, you guys got anything to ask me about my ranking?
Nah, I think Ray covered it for me.
No. Yeah, I think he covered all the ones that don't really have cases for.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So do we give our closing statements on old Scottie here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go first. My closing statement is I do think Scottie was a great player, obviously, because he made my list. I do think you can be two things at the same time. I think you can be great and overrated. I think when you say somebody's overrated, people automatically think you think they're bad or they suck. And that's not what I'm trying to say. I just think that his reputation was inflated. He was still really good, but I don't think he was as good as his reputation portrayed him. I think he's an all-time great defender, and would have had a good career wherever he would have played. I just don't know that it would have been on the level if he didn't play with Mike. So that's my closing statement. Drew?
Kind of just what you did. He kind of just got his 6 titles with Mike, 10-time All-Defense. But other than that, he didn't really do much for himself. He didn't really get himself his own accolades, and some of the stuff he did on the court and off the court, some of those issues and stuff that just doesn't make him look good, and the recent stuff, which has nothing to do with that. But it's just, I just don't understand. We've kind of touched why, but we're not for sure on why he's doing all this. So I don't know what's going on with Scottie, but I think that, I don't know, just it really bothers me not going back in the game. I don't know if he realized how much he let his team down that night. I mean, they still won the game and all this stuff, but I just couldn't imagine one of my teammates going, "Oh, I don't want to go in. I can't since you're not giving me the ball." Like, I don't know. I just couldn't imagine that how. Because if I ever did that, I would probably feel awful the rest of my life. Especially if we would have lost, because I would feel terrible. No matter, even if it was some game that didn't even matter, but in a playoff game and that matter, I just don't see how he did it. So,
well, not that I'm trying to change subject here, but I think it's a tricky thing because if Kukoc would have missed and they lost, Scottie would have been vindicated. Scottie would have been like, "Oh, see, I was right the whole time."
yeah.
But they would have lost, and he would have had, and then the season's over.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of a double-edged sword in that way. And this way, he looks really stupid because Kukoc went out and hit the shot, just like Phil drew it up, and then Scottie, you're over here acting like a baby. So I mean, it is a weird situation. Not that I'm standing up for Scottie because it's unforgivable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Uncle Doug?
Great player. Great defensive player. Jack of all trades. He did what he needed to do to help Michael win. Without Michael in the titles, he's not probably on my list. If he had played better in the 2 years that Mike was gone, maybe won an MVP in there, or maybe another title in there, then he probably goes way up the list. You overlook some of the numbers. But he just didn't step up when Mike was gone as much as like Havlicek did, or, I just thought he could have done more when Mike wasn't there.
And Ray.
Sometimes you just have that once in a lifetime pairing, and that's what we got with Michael and Pippen. Kind of like they go hand in hand. I know Jordan would probably just have his stats just off the charts by himself. And we've already talked about how maybe somebody else could fit in that spot besides Pippen. But I think without Pippen, I don't think they're winning titles. That's probably a once-in-a-lifetime pairing. And as much as I hate to say it, it's Batman to the Robin. And you can't really knock Pippen for what he did because he was a great lockdown offender. He did his job. He scored when he needed to. He was jack of all trades like we talked about. When I compare him to LeBron, it just irritates me because I know LeBron can be better, and he holds back, and that's why I hold Pippen a little bit higher regard than LeBron. And that's why he's ahead of LeBron on my list. So maybe one day it'll get swapped around. I fucking doubt it. But that's where I'm at in my thinking. So that's why I got Pippen where he is.
All right. And that will end our Scottie Pippen portion of this episode and lead us into trivia. So, Drew, what you got?
I love it how we just go to me right away.
Well, every time I ask, you say me, so
I love it. I love it. Well, I am ready like normal. We're going to do NBA player names. What NBA player last name has popped up the most in history? So what last name is the most common?
And like
all NBA from the beginning of time.
Oh, what
last name has had most players had?
Fair enough. I like that. It's an interesting question.
All right, got it.
I got it.
I got it.
All right.
I said Johnson.
So did I.
Said Brown.
It was actually Williams with 70.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh.
Johnson is second. I can't remember, but I think Johnson drops off to like 36. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw Williams was 70.
Williams.
I was like, oh.
Williams. Let's think here for a second. All NBA guys with the last name Williams. Buck Williams would have made a handful of All NBAs.
You got Jay Williams, but he's not all NBA.
He only played 1 year. He
Yeah.
didn't ever make an NBA. Wow. I'm already out of Williams that are good.
Well, at least what we can think of. I'm sure there's some good ones that we can't think of right now.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some guys we're forgetting. But, yeah, that surprises me a little bit. Not that Williams isn't a popular name.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, Johnson, I went straight there, and we have an all-time great as a Johnson right off the bat. So I would have thought that.
Me too.
All right, well, who would like to go next?
You or me, Ray?
I'll go ahead and do it. Let me get my phone unlocked here. All right, which state is the only one in the U.S. that has not had a future NBA player born there?
There's a state that has never had an NBA player come from it?
That is correct.
Ooh.
At least in the time frame when this book was written.
Wow.
Because we know this book is a little outdated.
Well, I got an educated guess, but that's all it is.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just going because I feel like I would have heard of it if I...
All right, I got a guess.
All right.
All right, I'm ready.
I said Alaska.
Okay.
I said Hawaii.
I said Maine.
It is Vermont.
Oh, wow.
I figured I was either go with Hawaii or Alaska or one of the little ones out east.
No, I
Alaska. Didn't Trajan Langdon make it to the NBA?
he did make it to the NBA. Is he from Alaska?
He's from Alaska.
Got you.
That's why I didn't pick that.
I only thought of Hawaii and Alaska. I was like, you'd think we'd know about guys there.
I really thought you'd know one from Hawaii. Like you'd be like,
Yeah.
he's from Hawaii. He made
Yeah.
the NBA. Like I feel like
Well, I thought about maybe Delaware or Maine, one of those states out there, but no.
I almost said Idaho, but I was like, there's gotta be someone probably.
You're welcome, Wade.
All right, here we go. First MVP all time, of course, was Bob Pettit,
Yep.
who drew last.
Yeah.
Who was the second MVP?
Can you give us a year?
Would have been 1957.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess, but I don't know if it's the right year.
I had a guess in my head, and the year threw me off.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Got a good guess, but
I think I'm probably out of the wrong era.
Damn. I have a guess, but I'm not confident in it.
all right, we're ready.
All right, what we got?
I said Dolph Shays.
Bill Russell.
I just said Kuzi.
You should be ashamed of yourself. Paul Arizin.
I thought I was like no, because that was
24-2, 7.5,
Yeah,
and
I knew
2.6.
I thought it was later. 'Cause I knew he got one, but I thought it was later on. Gosh dang it!
No,
I knew him and Pettit battled for the first one, but I thought, dang it.
Well, I thought Kuzi won his in '59. So I was like, it's not Kuzi, and it's not Pettit. So who is it? And I was like, Dolph Shays, maybe.
No.
Shame.
Well,
I know your name.
well, Alex is going scoreless today. Damn it. All right. Well, my question is, who are the top three points per game guys in the NBA right now?
Oh, well, I asked this a couple weeks ago, but that could have changed hugely.
Yeah, we're like 13 games into the season.
Well, let's go with.
I think we're at 29, 28, and 26 are the three numbers.
All right.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago there was 328.
Yeah. I remember us answering that
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
All right, well, I got to guess.
Yep.
All right. Oh, we're waiting on you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. What you got?
I said Steph, Durant, and Giannis.
I said George, Curry, and Durant.
Gosh dang it. I said Durant, Curry, and Jokic.
Well, Durant and Curry are correct.
I knew those two off.
Yes. Number 3 is DeMar DeRozan.
Wow,
He
Chicago.
just dropped 38 and 35 in back-to-back games in L.A., but I didn't know he was that.
Wow, DeRozan.
He's balling out.
And
Good job.
Giannis is 4th.
At 1, 2, and 4.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You were close. Very close. All right. So we went a scoreless week, which hasn't happened since when I was gone. But I'll repeat the scores so everybody knows what the scores are. Ray with 18, Drew with 37, Uncle Doug with 38, Alex with 43, and Wade with 49. So that is the trivia standings.
Hurry back, Wade. We miss you.
Absolutely. We appreciate you tuning in to listen to us argue about Scottie Pippen. And we would also appreciate you tuning in next week to help us to listen to us discuss Jason Kidd, the point guard that, all of us were able to watch.
I've watched him.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. So thanks for tuning in to Sports the NEMO Way.